Each year, on the second Sunday of Easter, we encounter this story of Thomas. His questioning faith, labeled as doubt. He was an engaged, faithful disciple who happened to be away when Jesus made his first resurrection appearance to the disciples. So we often remember Thomas as doubting, forgetting that it was Thomas who said, "We will go with you," when Jesus announced journeying to Jerusalem and his certain death. And it was Thomas who recorded experiences of Jesus in the non-canonical Gospel of Thomas, and who traveled to India to spread the message of Jesus, of the risen Christ, where people today still claim his heritage. But perhaps it is in Thomas's doubt that we most can identify with him. Maybe it's because we also have doubts, and Thomas helps us to own them. He makes it okay to question, to doubt. And perhaps he offers us hope that our meager faith and doubts will be enough to keep the faith alive for another 2,000 years. How many of you have had that experience of losing a loved one, and that time after you're just kind of in this other place? Things have changed, but what's coming has not yet been revealed. And you're just with it, with your own emotions and feeling it and holding it. And today, the disciples are gathered, and they have this experience of Jesus, who just appears in their midst and says, "Peace be with you." In that time, hearing "peace be with you" would be a welcome message, and yet the messenger is one that they're all having to get their head around. He shows them. They can see his hand. They can see his side. And then he sends them. "As the Father has sent me, so I send you." And he breathes on them with the Holy Spirit. And they are granted the ability to forgive and retain sins, as we are granted that in our baptism. But Thomas wasn't there. He wasn't with them. And upon hearing what they experienced, he expressed his need to see and touch the marks on Jesus' body. It had to be real for him. He needs to have that intimate, physical encounter, and says, "Unless I do, I will not believe." His faith needed a tangible experience of Jesus. And when Jesus appears to him and says, "Here, put your finger here, put your hand in my side, reach out, and do not doubt but believe," Thomas recognizes him, and he believes. His faith is rekindled, just like when a spark is blown to rekindle a fire. It takes just a little gentle blow there, add a little bit more pine straw or whatever, and it will take off. And his faith went on to kindle other people's faith, and continues to do so today in India. So we each have many different experiences of faith throughout our lives, and there are times when we may struggle to believe, and when our faith feels weak, and other times when we sense it is very strong. And we may wonder when we experience difficult times if our faith is shallow or deep. Is it growing or faltering? Are we walking with God, or are we walking on our own path? And we may find ourselves looking for signs. And then there'll be those times when we just know. You know it way down deep in your soul. But faith encompasses all these different experiences and even more. And for each person, faith is a decision made anew in every situation. And yet it's not a mental thing. It's one of those things that just, it's like, oh, that's what that is. It's here. And so as Jesus, the risen Christ, met the disciples in an empty tomb, in a word spoken, in an appearance, through an invitation, he met them according to their need. And he will meet each of us according to our need. And it may be as subtle as the brush of a butterfly, or as brazen as an invitation to touch his wounds. And we continue to live into this most uncommon time in the world. And we have doubts. In today's world, we have doubts. What is happening? And we may wonder if we still have faith, or that deep sense and faith to move through all this adversity and unpredictability and unknowing. And Jesus said, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you. And for us to grasp that, that's really hard to grasp. Faith is nurtured in our relationship with God and with one another, with nature, and in this community of Good Shepherd. And it is together that we encourage and cajole and nurture one another's faith. And together we have the ability to do great things, even move mountains. When we use our gifts and resources to nurture others, to join together to do justice, to provide shelter, to feed the hungry, or lift another's spirit, we kindle the spirit of hope, of faith, of love. And we spread the ministry, the love and faith of Jesus, the risen Christ. As many of you may not know, just before Easter, watching the rising terrorist activity in Jerusalem and the West Bank, and struggling to get a visa to get into Israel, I realized that Israel was fleeting. It wasn't happening. That my hopes for sabbatical were one thing, that I had plans starting in September and working towards ever since then, studying since then. And so the reality was there. I mean, there were these terrorist activities, and it was like, this isn't safe, and this isn't what sabbatical is supposed to be about. And so I had to make the hard decision to say, I'm not going to go to Israel this year. It was one of those moments where it's like, okay, I hear you, God. I don't like it, but I hear you, and I'm very disappointed. So now I'm going to Ireland for 2 weeks instead of more than a month. After months of preparing and studying for Israel, and Ireland was number 2 on my bucket list, so I guess it's all right. But the decision was like turning on a dime, and it was very disorienting, and without all those months of preparation. So it was a moment of acquiescence. And my soul said, okay, I hear you, God. I'll go. That's it. I'll follow where you lead me. So I'm going to go to a different place without the pre-planned agenda, trusting that God is leading me as I trust God is leading you all through this time. Over this summer, as we journey on sabbatical, may your journey draw this faith community closer together in love and renewal. And may God refresh our souls until we come together again. So I leave you with this until we come back together in the fall. May the rose rise up to meet you. May the wind always be at your back. May the sun shine warm on your face. And the rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. It's really hard to go.